In 2024, Republican EV attacks may fall short as swing states reap investment. Reuters. Electric vehicles are a hoax, they do not work, and they are strengthening China's economy at the expense of American jobs. Those are among the criticisms that contenders for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination, including former President Donald Trump and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, have leveled on the campaign trail in recent weeks. But while EVs have emerged as a common foe for Republicans seeking the country's top job, they are increasingly a source of tax revenue and employment. Below are your comments. My Prius Prime runs on gas or electric. I get 136 mpg. If I run out of gas, it switches seamlessly to gas, 60 mpg. Studies have shown that the traction battery that powers the drivetrain will outlast the expected LIFE of the car. Over the years, I have driven all of the engine types. Pending the DEV. Even as a diesel truck owner and a gas SUV owner. Old, paid off, minimal driving. I think EVs are amazing. My next vehicle will probably be a Rivian, but I'm waiting a few more months to decide. Since we are getting 16 panels of rooftop solar, it will be free charging too. 2024 will be a big year for Democrats, with a great economy, low unemployment, higher wages with REIT benefits, lower drug costs, better healthcare and repairs to our infrastructure. The only problem is Republicans refuse to pass gun laws that would make us safer. The same fear tactics were used when cars were introduced. The critics said, "They aren't reliable, where do we get fuel, how do you drive them through mud?" And on it went. Horses were the only way to transport goods, along with trains. We know how that turned out. The same is true with EVs. Please wait a moment. Isn't it interesting how the MAGAs love to give huge tax cuts to the billionaires but then cry when rebates are given to those who buy this first-generation EV cars, which are the inevitable future? Yes, there are issues with this first generation as with all new products, but new. Next news. Why Biden's weakness among young voters should be taken seriously. The New York Times. Could President Joe Biden and Donald Trump really be locked in a close race among young voters? A group Democrats typically carry by double digits. As the recent Times Siena polls suggest, to many of our readers and others, it's a little hard to believe. So hard to believe that it seems to them the polls are flat out wrong. Sign up for the morning newsletter from the New York Times. Of course, it's always possible that the polls are wrong. I've thought our own polling might be wrong before. Below are your comments. Why should Biden's weakness in the polls be taken seriously? Because if you treat it with the contempt that it deserves, we'll have to do some actual reporting, and maybe even some real thinking before we write our stories. How to get the young voters? That's easy. Promise them affluent jobs making oodles of money without having to really do anything. Promise them the world, tell them they will get great jobs without having to go to school or will pay for them go to school to earn worthless degrees, or have a. The only reason the young voters went with Joe is because he promised to take away their student loan debt. He pretty much lied and tried to buy votes. This is why people need to research. Not saying Trump is the best, but the younger generation needs to make more informed choices, not just vote for. The truth of the matter is that on election day these young voters in the polls will not go vote. Young voters are not a serious threat to any candidate. They think voting is someone else's problem. Unfortunately for the Democrats, young voters are not as naive as they had hoped. They recognize that the government officials heaping new debt on top of old debt will be dead and be buried while they are left holding the IOU. On top of that, there is no plan for turning things around, just more of. Next news. Trump legal news brief. Threats to Judge Engoron and clerk don't justify gag order, Trump's lawyers argue. Yahoo News. In a Monday appeals court filing, lawyers for former President Donald Trump argue that hundreds of sent threats made against Judge Arthur Engoron and his law clerk do not justify keeping a gag order in place in the New York financial fraud trial of Trump, his adult sons and their family business. Below are your comments. Much like January 6, we know that Trump's supporters are doing exactly what he intended for them to do. He isn't telling them to stop. He has been made aware that his disparaging remarks are being turned into threats by his fanatic followers, including threats to a clerk that no one would know. Trump needs to be held to the same rules that the rest of us would be held to. He's threatened people involved with the trial and been gagged for doing so because it endangers the subjects of those threats. How is it okay that he's not put in jail? Anyone that would put the same kind of intimidation and threats out on Trump would have Secret Service investigations started and some arrested. Why we have this multi-tier judicial and law enforcement system is simply beyond belief. It defies the very concept of justice for all. They are right. Threats against a sitting judge and clerk do not warrant a gag order. They warrant jail time. This circus sideshow is getting totally ridiculous. Treat Mr. Trump like any other defendant. If he breaks the rules of engagement, punish him like any other citizen. The phone calls in. Next news. Nikki Haley argues Donald Trump is always followed by chaos before a large South Carolina crowd. Associated Press. Nikki Haley argued Monday former President Donald Trump causes too much chaos to be successful in a second White House term, reiterating her argument about the GOP frontrunner at a large town hall in her home state of South Carolina. The former governor and United Nations ambassador drew the largest crowd of her primary campaign so far as she tries to close the gap with Trump just weeks before the Iowa caucuses kick off the Republican nominating calendar. Haley invoked her former boss saying Below are your comments. Trump's only legislative achievement was signing Ryan's tax cuts for the wealthy 1%, which only cled up to CEOs and stockholders. Did she explain to the crowd her plans for SS and Medicare? And if she did they understand it? Or was this attended by the rich? She still backs Trump. That's disqualification right there. Do they know her record in the UN? No, I thought so. She certainly presents as one of the more sane options. There is no constant whirlwind of drama circling her. Not sure who to vote for yet, but she has caught my eye. The Democrats would tear Haley apart in the first month and she would be doing whatever they want. She can win if the 55% of the GOP that don't now support Trump coalesce behind her. 60/40 against. Expect the Dems to pull a switcheroo before the convention. Biden will have a medical condition which will preclude him from running, and Harris be given the maker task of assigning his earned Next news. Donald Trump is set to return to the witness stand in his civil fraud trial. Associated Press. After a pugnacious first turn on the witness stand, former President Donald Trump plans to testify again next month in his civil fraud trial, his lawyers said Monday. Trump had plenty to say during his initial testimony November 6 in the case, which has questioned his net worth, accused him of misleading banks and insurers, and threatened his future in business in New York. The Republican 2024 presidential frontrunner denies all the allegations, and he used his first stint on the witness stand to. Below are your comments. I prepare an overview of the value of our real estate portfolio every year. Our lenders expect it, and it's a requirement of our loan documents. I have zero concern of anyone challenging it, because it's based on full disclosure of reasonable, upportable estimates of net operating income and Mark. 7 Springs, Westchester County, New York. Mr. Trump purchased this 212-acre estate in 1995 for $7.5 million. His son, Eric Trump, took the lead on issues related to the property and even lived there for a time. The property was valued at up to $291 million in the statements from 2011 to 2021 based on. They're not done anymore because they got caught. Had these charges not been brought about, they would still be committing fraud and tax evasion. They should be sure that these minions understand that if they lie and/or continue to lie, that they will go to jail, and Trump will not do anything to help. Next news. Idaho asks U.S. Supreme Court to allow near-total abortion ban. Reuters. Idaho officials on Monday asked the U.S. Supreme Court to temporarily halt a federal judge's ruling that blocked the Republican-governed state from enforcing its near-total abortion ban in medical emergency situations following a legal challenge by Democratic President Joe Biden's administration. Republican state officials urged the justices to pause U.S. District Judge B. Lynn Windmill's August 2022 preliminary injunction issued after he concluded that the state's abortio and restrictions conflict. Below are your comments. Remember, we do have laws against practicing medicine without a license. Start using the courts against these legislators who think they should make medical decisions without being medical professionals. How can the GOP claim to be the party of small government when they choose to take away the right of privacy? Idaho state officials, you need to do the right thing and put the vote to the people of Idaho. The people of your state should be the ones deciding this. You work for them. I just do not understand why Republican politicians are so determined to bleep off all women. As if we don't vote and pay taxes? As if we aren't citizens of the USA? I'm so glad Republicans continue to show us who they are, and that they want to rule women before the 2024 election. If you vote for them, you are voting against your own and other human beings' best interest. Vote blue. Next news. Trump revives push to eliminate Obamacare, sparking Biden campaign blowback. NBC News. Donald Trump revived calls to roll back Obamacare if he wins the 2024 presidential election, sparking pushback from President Joe Biden's campaign. Below are your comments. The ACA is not perfect, but just by its very existence is preferable to Trump's non-existent health care plan. Many people have insurance under ACA who would not otherwise have health insurance, yet some of these same people voted for and will continue to support and vote for Trump. Go figure. Republicans had 2 years to replace it when they controlled everything and couldn't do it. They won't figure it out this time either. The bigger concern should be that Trump will simply push to repeal and not replace. Many Republicans even want it that way. The ACA would not exist if healthcare costs were not already out of control. My premiums did not increase for 2 years after it took effect. And let me guess, it is going to be replaced with his healthcare plan. The only problem with his plan is that it was written in invisible ink so none of us could see it. Obamacare is not perfect, but it is the only affordable choice for some people, especially the low-income ones, and this as usual. The sad part is, if Trump had actually produced that big beautiful healthcare plan of his, like he kept promising for 4 years, Obamacare may have been replaced. Next news. Deck the White House halls. Jill Biden wants holiday visitors to feel like kids again. Associated Press. Jill Biden wants everyone who visits the White House during the holidays to feel like a kid again. Magic, wonder and joy is the theme this year, President Joe Biden's third in the White House. Jill Biden said it was so amazing to see the Christmas tree atop the entrance to the East Wing. And they returned Sunday night after spending the Thanksgiving holiday in Nantucket, Massachusetts. Below are your comments. Took a peruse on the White House website. Very traditional aesthetic, very pretty. I really did like Main tree with the all-state birds as decorations. Thought that was a nice play on a traditional tree ornament. I think she achieved her goal of feeling like a kid again. I could relate to a lot of the displays. As far as no religious theme in the photos, which religions do you want to include? Leave out one and you are going to hear about it. Leave them all out, you are going to hear about it. Dot. Maybe there needs to be some spending controls set on the amount of decorations we really need to foo. ND. 98 Christmas trees when people are struggling to pay for their needs seems excessive, does it not? She decorated in a cheerful way. A lot more attractive than Melanie's weird red trees, which for some reason always reminded me of Me of Thrones. Next news. Biden hopes to alter the trajectory of the war as hostages are released. The New York Times. Washington. After 7 weeks of struggling with a crisis that defies easy solutions, President Joe Biden could take solace over the weekend in saving a single 4-year-old girl whose parents were bleep in the October 7 terrorist attack on Israel. But gratifying as it was to secure the release of Abigail Iden from her Hamas captors on Sunday, the challenge for Biden going forward is not only to free the rest of the Americans being held hostage, but to use the success of recent days to alter the traj. Below are your comments. Before Biden, I was saving about $500 a month now. I live paycheck to paycheck and can't save a penny. Everything Trump said would happen is happening with Biden. Cut oil production, inflation, immigrate, on amnesty, etc. My health insurance bill is up to $650 per month. My gas is up to $4.50 a gallon, gee. Actually, Biden has already failed his biggest challenge, which was to get inflation under control. Biden's biggest challenge lies ahead. Yes, it does. The next election. His own people are turning against him. Stop the baloney. Biden will have as much to do with altering the trajectory of this war than I will. Netanyahu will lead his country the way he sees fit, a much stronger leader than Biden in all respects. CTS. Next news. Video of Biden altered so speech appears unnaturally slow. Fact check. USA Today. The video is altered in such a way that the pace of Biden's speech appears slower than it actually was. Below are your comments. Get ready for more of the same as 2024 gets closer. Thanks to AI and deep fakes, it's possible to make anything seem real. If I had the S-bleep, I could make a supercut of Gerald Ford's stumbles and superimpose Trump's face. It used to be cutting out words and phrases from past speeches and pasting. You can't believe anything these days, not on TV, radio, or the internet. So many things can be altered and facts changed, or data pulled to represent a certain viewpoint. No one is trustworthy. If you have a legitimate complaint against Biden, you will get more credibility if you are honest and not pull these juvenile games all the time. You want people to believe you, then honesty is the best policy. That may be so, but when I saw him on this morning's news, he was definitely trying to read what he was supposed to say. Donald Trump can be best described as a self-centered lunatic with an angry shouting threat to Chong-e the democracy into his dynasty. His first steps, he has claimed, would be to take over control of the FBI and DOJ. The exact same government agencies that worked together in the investigation that. Next news. Trump refuses to rule out new migrant family separations, but allies are wary. Reuters. Donald Trump has vowed to intensify his crackdown on immigration if he returns to the White House, and has left the door open to resuming his most controversial policy, family separations at the U.S.-Mexico border, but key allies who could join a new Trump administration as immigration enforcers are wary. 5 former Trump officials and conservative allies told Reuters that even as Trump weighs harsher anti-migrant measures, they are concerned about implementing a new version of the 2018 zero. Below are your comments. They're not worried about the policy itself, but public backlash to it. If they managed to make it secret, they'd be all over it. You know, certain labor camps in Germany were secret during the 1930s and 1940s. That they existed wasn't secret, what happened in them was. If you go to shut both sides, both parties, including the president, governors, House members, Senate members and Border Patrol officers in a room with a mediator. Have them commit to not come out until they come up with enough money and a humane solution to the border problems and the whole immigration situation. All he does is attack the symptoms, but nobody addresses the issues that is people. Next news. Trump's intolerance towards everyone encourages hate, Chris Christie says. The Guardian. Republican challenger says rivals' language and conduct a contributing factor to rising anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. Below are your comments. Christie hit the nail on the head with his comment, intolerance towards anyone encourages intolerance towards everyone. And that's exactly what's going on here. The word intolerance is not what I would use. I think hate is more accurate. Trump has brought out the fears of so many of his follow. John Kelly got it right when he said that all of Trump's relationships are transactional. That would include the voters and every other American. 100% true. As I've been saying for years now, Trump promotes violence with his rhetoric. He has a brain-dead following that only hears catchphrases and runs with them. The best bet is not to vote for a Republican. That is the only way to make sure Trump's influence doesn't further affect our system. Republican voters love the bigotry, they love the hate, they love the cruelty their leaders' demons trade against Americans not like themselves. These voters love the version of America Trump brought them. And they want it back. So far, Trump has been the only candidate who has given them the. Next news. Hunter Biden's team weighs House subpoena as James Biden cooperates with GOP panel. NBC News. The legal team for President Joe Biden's son Hunter Biden is weighing how to respond to a House Republican subpoena, while James Biden's team talks to Oversight Committee. Below are your comments. Jim Jordan already established the precedent that responding to congressional subpoenas is optional and not required. Well, James Biden has agreed to testify. Nothing to hide. And Hunter obviously will not testify since he is being investigated by the DOJ. Comer will not be able to enforce his subpoena on Hunter since the DOJ will not enforce a subpoena on someone under investigation. A DOJ investigation always talk. Just come in and explain why money was moving through shell companies to the Biden family. Just explain it. They cannot govern. They have no good ideas to campaign on, and they certainly have done nothing to show voters their success. So they try to make the other side look corrupt. Even as their leader is facing 91 indictments and many of those around him have already been found guilty. This has been the. Jimmy says he paid back all those loans. 10% on the nose, just like we agreed. I always remembered to write loan repayment in the memo line like you told me. What's the problem? Quote. Next news. Judge denies Trump's fishing expedition to subpoena January 6 committee records. NBC News. A federal judge overseeing President Donald Trump's upcoming election interference trial said in a ruling Monday that the former president's attempt to subpoena what his legal team dubbed missing RICO RDS from the House Jan. 6 committee appeared to be a fishing expedition that was not in good faith. Below are your comments. Just another delay tactic by Trump's lawyers. In the Florida case, Trump's lawyers don't have to do anything since the judge makes her own delays. It's nice to have a judge who is very experienced in her position. Such a difference in adhering to the law than the rookie judge struggling with making decisions and having appeals courts overturning them. The experienced judge is doing a professional job, the rookie is floundering and forgetting. Trump and approximately 1,200 other anti-Americans have been charged in the coup attempt. More than likely he has millions of sympathizers. As trial dates get closer, you will see him rant more and more. That is when you'll see that many of his fans have come to a conclusion: he is not worth th. If he is ever convicted in this court, this will be automatic grounds for an appeal and likely a subsequent mistrial. Next news. Colossal failure. Ex-RNC director dings party for scheduling GOP debate on the same night as Country Music Awards. Bus. Innis Insider. One former RNC executive director suggested that the party was actually trying not to reach Republican and primary voters. Below are your comments. I bet more Democrats, independents watched that last debate anyway. Many Republican voters I know did not watch it and are not interested in the specific plans of Air candidates. Case in point, Trump, who has not stated any of his policies, is the lead in their party. Have any of the other Republican candidates either endorsed or been critical Trump's plan for his second term? Do any other candidates want to repeal Obamacare? Do any other candidates believe the president is an emperor? DeSantis? Friday Night SmackDown would also be a potential scheduling conflict. GOP radical cult extremism's exalted cult leader Trump has already told them to forget about the Deb. Atesh and just hand him the nomination like they did in 2020. Trump's mental instability increases daily and he just keeps talking to prove it to Americans. You can't make this street. Actually it's genuine, then you can use the CMA as cover for why the ratings were so poor. Next news. Biden says he's helped lower inflation as he hosts first meeting of his new supply chain council. As Associated Press. President Joe Biden on Monday opened the first meeting of his Supply Chain Resilience Council by warning companies against price gouging and saying that his administration was working to lower costs for U.S. families. We know that prices are still too high for too many things, that times are still too tough for too many families, Biden said. The president has blamed inflation on issues such as supply chains and Russia's 2022 invasion of Ukraine, while Republican lawmakers say the run-up in page. Below are your comments. If that was true, then inflation would have reversed after supply chain problems were solved in 2022. Nope, inflation is still increasing about Fed target rate. Inflation is up for food. Oh please. Brandon couldn't put together a puzzle made for a 2-year-old. We're determined to keep working to bring down prices for American consumers and ensure the resiliency of our supply chains for the future, said Lael Brainerd, director of the White House National Economic Council. No, prices are down. Core inflation is 4.1% October 2023. Less of an increase is not. Next news. In South Carolina homecoming, Haley's town hall turns into a full-blown rally. Politico. The former South Carolina governor is still running far behind Donald Trump in the state. Below are your comments. Trump and anyone that works for him depend on negativity, lies, scare tactics, name-calling, insurrection, etc. to get what they want. I'm tired of it, though it was enlightening to see how many continue to fall for it. When she talks to her corporate money people, she is sure to tell them how she plans to take away SOC, IAL security and every other government program that might benefit the working class at the cost of the wealthy. That is what her main agenda. Everything else is just the Republican politics of distribution. Donnie has 3 upcoming felony trials in Florida, GA, and D.C. Trump's former WH aides, attorneys, staff, AG, chief of staff, cabinet members, etc. will be testifying against him under oath in court. Wonder how the Trump cult members are going to react to that. Or are they just too brainwashed to? I can't believe some booing Trump. He had 200 million people come to his inauguration in 2017. He had pics. Only an American traitor can still be supporting Don Trump. Next news. Biden says 4-year-old U.S. hostage in Gaza is released. Reuters. A 4-year-old American girl captured after seeing her parents slain by Hamas fighters who stormed southern Israel from Gaza on October 7 was among 17 hostages released on Sunday as part of an Israeli-Hamas prisoner exchange, President Joe Biden said. Abigail Eden, who turned 4 while in captivity, became the 3rd person with U.S. citizenship freed by Hamas during 7 weeks of bloodshed between the Iranian-backed Palestinian Mi. Lydia that controls the Gaza Strip and the Israeli military. Below are your comments. While sitting at his vacation home, the only way he can say anything is by being wired up and his street AFF telling him what to say word by word. He did it all by himself, with Hunter's help. There was a time when America was feared and respected enough that when the president told a group to do something, they would fear that they would face an overwhelming response if they failed to do so. Now they know they can bargain for even better terms than 3 of theirs and a convey full of sup. Let's trade Biden for a few hostages. ! Her parents were bleeped by Hamas. No words. Just prayers to God. Next news. Biden is sending $100 million in aid into Gaza. Is any of it ending up in the hands of Hamas? USA Today. President Joe Biden is sending food, water and other life-saving supplies into Gaza. But fears persist they could end up going to Hamas. Below are your comments. Meanwhile, the U.S. sent about $10 million to Hawaii and $9 million to Ohio, but when it comes to overseas it's a blah. NK check for them, all while supporting both sides of the conflict. Not sure how that makes any sense. Fund and support a war for one side and then send millions in re. leaf to the other side. Of course that the aid sent into Gaza will end up helping Hamas, and a very small portion will help the civilian population. Hamas will use the hostages as a shield against Israel attacks, so they will never release all of them. All this ceasefire is for Hamas to regroup and prepare for the fight. Nothing greater than the U.S. taxpayer. Biden is sending nothing. Are money going to support both sides of a war? Tell me how that makes sense. All of it will wind up in Hamas' hands and they will prioritize its use. The tunnels should have a USAID plaque outside all of the entrances, and there are many. Next news. Biden to skip COP climate meeting in Dubai official. Reuters. Reuters reported last month that Biden was unlikely to be at the United Nations Conference of the RTIES on climate, known as COP28, which begins on Thursday, as he balances demands of a Middle East war and a presidential campaign expected to heat up in January. The president's schedule for Thursday released by the White House shows him hosting a bilateral meeting with President João Manuel Goncalves Lourenço of the Republic of Angola and attending the nation tree lighting. Below are your comments. Until there is enough solar, wind, and other renewable electrical power produced to meet the demand of non-transportation uses, every EV increases the amount of fossil fuel-produced electricity that is needed. Spend our money and resources to produce enough renewable power to meet the current demand. As he balances demands of a Middle East war and a presidential campaign expected to heat up in January. Except he has plenty of time to spend every weekend in Delaware. I suspect he's not up for those long trips anymore, physically or mentally. Next news. Trump unlikely to attend Milei inauguration in Argentina. Source. Reuters. The press office of the Argentine Libertarian had announced on November 23 that his fellow conservative would travel to Buenos Aires, but did not specifically say Trump would attend Milei's formal swearing-in as president on deck. But a source close to the campaign of Trump, who is currently seeking his party's nomination to win back his old job in next year's U.S. election, cited a tight campaign schedule as the likely impediment. The first nominating context for Trump's Republican Party is say. Below are your comments. Of course Trump won't go. He won't be the center of attention. Trump can't leave the country. He's under multiple criminal indictments. You might have mentioned that the guy is a criminal defendant out on bail in 4 different jurisdictions. While that clown judge in Florida would grant him permission to travel overseas, the other 3 would not. Couldn't find an airplane with a seat he could fit. Oh, opportunity of a lifetime. Mr. Trump, please go. They will welcome you with open arms. Next news. Texas governor skydives for first time alongside 106-year-old World War II veteran. Associated Press. Add this to Texas Gov. Greg Abbott's high ambitions. Parachuting from a plane. The three-term Republican governor skydived Monday for the first time, completing a tandem jump from about 8,000 feet, 2,400 meters, above the suburbs between Austin and San Antonio. Blaschka is a previous Guinness World Records title holder for oldest tandem skydive. Below are your comments. There's a fine line between being a skydiver and a yard dart. The WW2 veterans, America's greatest generation, deserve a better America than the one today's politicians are diminishing. Afterwards, Gov. Abbott signed legislation closing even more VA resources. If I remember right, less than 100 years ago we had a president that had to hide his wheelchair as it would prevent him from gaining support. Now a major politician uses one and even jokes about his need for it, but is popular. I think that says a lot about how far we have come as a people. Glad the old guy made it down okay. Can't say the same for Abbott. Next news. Biden not planning to attend UN climate conference in Dubai. CBS News. A recent report released by the Biden administration found current efforts to fight climate change insufficient. Below are your comments. Joe's slowing down. And there are going to be a lot of things ahead of him that he's not going to be able to do. Biden has made his climate agenda very clear. Less fossil fuel. No sense in attending any more talks with the oil titans. Kerry and Blinken, a couple of real deep thinkers on this one. Let me guess, let's restrict U.S. economic growth for the sake of China and India. Even Biden realizes that the climate claims of the climate activists are mostly taken out of context and are essentially phony so that certain people can profit or gain additional power. They cherry-pick their information and avoid a real scientific approach. Biden not planning to attend UN climate conference in Dubai means only one thing. He is not serious enough about climate change. Just another political vein. He moves in the direction where the wind is bleep. Next news. How old is Joe Biden? The oldest U.S. president just blew out another candle. USA Today. Joe Biden is the oldest president in U.S. history and the second sitting president in a row to set that record. Here's the age he turned this year. Below are your comments. Most of what I hear and read doesn't encourage me to see aging as a normal part of life. Most of the arguments confuse physical signs of aging with mental functioning. That's a mistake that relates to ageism rather than to aging. Age matters, but the best predictor of future behavior is past B. Chairman James Comer and Oversight Committee Republicans are investigating the Biden family's domestic IC and international business dealings to determine whether these activities compromise U.S. national security and President Biden's ability to lead with impartiality. Members of the Biden family have. How old is Joe Biden? Well, if you ask him, he'll answer you in about 20 minutes, but then you would have to fact-check him. He is 81. He appears to be 101. Former President Joe Biden. Next news. Crunch time for Israel and Ukraine aid as lawmakers return to Congress from recess. NBC News. Washington. Lawmakers will reignite a debate over approving U.S. aid to Israel and Ukraine when Congress returns from Thanksgiving recess this week, with deep uncertainty underscoring the path forward amid divisions between the two parties. Below are your comments. Apparently it is easier to pass a bill aiding foreign nations than to pass any bills that aid Americans who are struggling. Lawmakers return to Congress from recess, they stay in recess. When does Congress start passing bills to aid with the homeless problem in this country, or the drug problem in this country? Seems like they would much rather give our tax dollars to other countries than make this place better for Americans. Why is it crunch time? Why must the U.S. be both the financiers and the police of the world? We should end the funding to the rest of the world immediately and get our own house in order before it completely falls apart. Next news. Argentina's right-wing president-elect to meet with a top Biden advisor. Associated Press. Argentina's right-wing president-elect Javier Milei will meet with President Joe Biden's national security advisor on Tuesday in Washington, according to the White House. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby told reporters on Monday that Milei will meet with White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan and other administration officials. Below are your comments. So the president of a country is coming and Biden won't meet him, kind of insulting. And Biden chalks up another failure on foreign policy. Wonder if he would have if he was on the left. My advice to him: stay away from the U.S. until January 20, 2024, when Biden is out of office. Here we go again. I wonder how much money this new Argentine leader will ask for. Biden will buy his friendship no matter how many millions it costs. Top Biden advisor. Ha 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 ha. Don't forget he's a right-wing president-elect! Exclamation mark. Next news. She was an amazing woman. Rosalind Carter Memorials pay tribute to historic First Lady. USA Today. President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris will travel to Georgia to pay tribute to former First Lady Rosalind Carter. Below are your comments. This article was about honoring a wonderful woman who accomplished amazing things. By reading the comments, all I can see are people writing pitiful, nasty things. No wonder the country is where it is. It seems that compassion, kindness, integrity have gone the way of the mongoose. What is left but generations to come? Find a 28-year-old and ask them to name the last 4 first ladies, and I'll bet the vast majority of THM have no idea. Biden asked Rosalind to stand and be recognized, to the horror of the audience. Joe Biden is also a beacon of light who will be honored for generations to come. Biden honored her by saying if Rosalynn Carter hadn't refused to sit in the back of the bus, there never would have been a civil rights movement. Next news. Liz Truss backs Trump with call for Republican presidential victory. The Guardian. Short-lived PM does not mention frontrunner for nomination by name but says, "I hope a Republican will be returned in 2024. Below are your comments. There must be conservative leadership in the U.S. that is once again bold enough to call out hostile regimes as evil and a threat. Did she not notice what Trump called those hostile dictators when he was actually in office? Well, Liz, I hope to see a pig fly and win the lottery. Keep wishing. Liz Truss needs to mind her island, and the fact that she's a political has-been, like Trump. Her own party made a mess of the UK. We don't need any more messes here. What world is she living in? Joe Biden hasn't done enough for Ukraine? Who does she think negotiated the withdrawal from Afghanistan? Pres. Biden was obliged to carry it through, even Trump set it up. Why doesn't Trump ask her to run as his VP? They'd be on about a par, intellectually, politically. Next news. A retiring Democratic congressman laments the absolute chaos of the current session that he says attributed to his decision to forego re-election. Business Insider. For Dan Kildee, the leadership clashes that originated in the GOP conference and spilled into the RGER House have proven to be deeply problematic. Below are your comments. This Congress got nothing done. I don't blame the man. The GOP is in shambles, and they do not have anyone with leadership qualities who can take over and pull it together. It is unfortunate that they don't think they have a problem. With the TIHS show put on by the GQP over the last couple of months, I am surprised that any decent public servant would want to be associated with the House of Representatives. We will mostly be losing the good ones, who actually govern. The congressman, from a key swing district, said the chaos of the House weighed on him. Translation: his polling and donations were down. Next news. White House rejects Republican bill to block housing of migrants on federal land. NBC News. The White House on Monday said that the Biden administration strongly opposes Republican-sponsored legislation in the House that would ban the use of federal funds to provide temporary shelter to undocumented immigrants on federal lands. Below are your comments. Ask yourselves a very basic question. Why are American taxpayers being required to spend countless millions, if not billions of dollars to house, feed, medicate, educate, and Lord knows what else on economic migrants who have entered our country illegally? We, as a nation, can't afford to take car. This is a good bill and the Biden people oppose it. No way should we allow illegals to camp or inhabit our public lands. It's bad enough to give them preference over American citizens. I doubt the Biden administration has a clue what they have caused. Next news. Donald Trump's lawyers urge NY appeals court to overturn gag order, arguing fines were in a fit of pique. USA Today. Donald Trump's lawyers urged a New York appellate court to overturn a gag order in his civil fraud trial. Below are your comments. Fines were way too lenient. Should be adjusted based on how much wealth a person claims to have, even if that amount is fraudulent. Trump wants his First Amendment rights upheld so he can campaign, but how does accusing a court official of being a congressman's girlfriend, posting court officials' addresses and social media count as campaigning? If anyone is having a fit of pique, it's Trump. He wants to rant, yell, incite. They should treat him the same as anyone else. Last week a judge put a January 6 participant in jail for 3 months for doing the same thing. So, the Trump lawyers want to overturn the gag order, arguing fines were in a fit of pique. Next news. Argentina's Milei to meet Biden aide after lunch with Bill Clinton. Reuters. Argentina's president-elect Javier Milei will meet with a top security aide to U.S. President Joe Biden in Washington, the White House confirmed on Monday, after the far-right libertarian lunched with former U.S. President Bill Clinton in New York. The meal with the former U.S. leader, a Democrat largely on the opposite side of the ideological fence from Milei, marked an especially surprising part of the incoming Argentine president's first foreign trip after winning a runoff vote earlier this. Below are your comments. Trump goes to him, lol. Bill will show you what cigars are for. Joe is obviously demoted below Bill Clinton. Ha ha. He is definitely meeting with the wrong people, all of them are liberals. Why is anyone with any self-respect meeting with the new fascist dictator of Argentina? Next news. Retirements mount in Congress, with some frustrated by chaos. CBS News. People are lying a lot, says Rep. Ken Buck, a Colorado Republican. And when you call out the lies, you're the bad guy. Below are your comments. If you like rumbles, biting, shoulder bumps, elbows to the kidneys, fist fights instead of legislating and voting, then run for Congress. People are lying a lot. And when you call out the lies, you're the bad guy. Nah, when you call out the liars, the Trump horde threatens you and your family's lives. Per Mitt Romney and other senators. This is your new Republican horde. Retirements? They have done nothing to deserve retirement. Manchin is not a centrist. He is a conservative Democrat who would be considered a Republican under Reagan's philosophy. Chaos in Congress? Really? Who'a thunk? Next news. MSNBC panelists can't keep straight faces over wild new George Santos quotes. HuffPost. Host Katie Phang read out the GOP lawmakers' absurdly defiant statements in the face of looming EXPU. Elsion. Below are your comments. Santos is a good example of the Republican electorate not knowing what they are doing when voting for one of their candidates. And next November, they'll do it again. As a nation, we must do better in vetting our candidates. Congress has felons galore. He is not lying on this one. Questionable stock purchases. Accepting gifts and funds from lobbyists and more. I will not be surprised that he will be expelled from the House by Wednesday. Good riddance to him. The fact he got elected is scary. How could that many people be so afraid that they would vote for him? Next news. Argentina's right-wing president-elect to meet with top Biden advisor. Politico. Javier Milei is to meet with Jake Sullivan. Below are your comments. If someone believes in representative government, free trade, the rights to own property, liberty, upply side economics and less government interference, they are now labeled right-wing and synonymous with fascists. Fascists believe in government owning or directing production within an autocrat. Told Yoso Trump. They elected another liberal with wolf far-right clothing. Argentina's right-wing president-elect to meet with top Biden advisor, Carlos Danger. As history shows, there is only one ethnicity that got kicked out from 40-plus countries. It starts with J. No other ethnicity poisoned local water wells with dead rats. Next news. Trump loses bid to subpoena January 6 committee material. CBS News. Former President Donald Trump's legal team wanted to subpoena material from the House Jan. 6 Select Committee. Below are your comments. Just another delay tactic, designed to gum up the works and give him more stuff to file appeals over. Trump's entire life has been spent using the legal system to line his own pockets and enhance his reputation. More of the same. As his current campaign is shaping up to be less about a vision of the future and more about meting out revenge on those Trump feels have wronged him. So that's what Trump is all about these days, meting out revenge. What a terrific platform, so beneficial for the country. Please subscribe to my channel. And if you like it, please thumbs up.